So the biggest thing from my perspective was making sure that we heard people's voices. And that was a large emphasis over the last year. There are a lot of conversations I've had with people. We had a committee that was put together to represent voices from our own community. And then even in last night's meeting, we had very specific times to make sure the public had opportunity to give their perspective. Well, I think with this particular issue, the challenge was that there's a split perspective in the community. And that was reflected last night in the vote. It wasn't a perfect 7-0 vote. It was a split vote last night. And I think that vote represents the feeling in the community right now. Well, I think the thing that was great with last night's meeting is that there was perspective shared from all board members, and that each board member had a reason for voting the way they did. And obviously, we all want our elected officials to vote exactly the way that we want them to. And while individually there may have been disagreement between board members, I think that the different perspectives of the community were represented. I want people to know that they are welcome in Allendale. And whether or not there's a statue in the Garden of Honor doesn't change how I feel in a welcoming manner toward people that are in my township. I'm here to represent all of the people that live in Allendale, and I'm here to welcome them all as individuals. And regardless of whether or not a statue's in our park, my feelings don't change toward that. Dialogue is there are very conflicting viewpoints regarding the statue, and I think the vote last night reflected the differences in viewpoints. It was a split decision vote, but it was the vote of the board to move forward with the statue in its current location.
Recommendations?
Sure. There are a lot of recommendations from the committee that we have not taken up yet. So while the board did vote last night to keep the existing statue in place, there is still that possibility of another statue being added for the Civil War, as well as other statues to be added for other conflicts that the United States has been in. Those are still definitely conversations that the board still needs to discuss.
And finally, while I know that a lot of the vote was made with the Allendale population in consideration, this controversy has drawn the eyes of those across the state, if not more broadly. Do you think this has a message for those, or do you have a message for those maybe observing this from the outside looking in as to how the vote played out last night?
So I think the board tries to balance out a few different things. You have to take into consideration your personal beliefs as a board member, but those get trumped by what are the things that your community believes and wants. And those obviously were in conflict last night. And then third, what are those things that we do that are best overall for the community? And so I think you saw with our board members last night, different balances between those three items being reflected in each of the 7 votes last night.
Sure. I mean, I'll give you my personal thoughts on it. A protest is typically to raise awareness for an issue, and that's been done. So in my book, a protest doesn't sway a decision after it's been brought up. It's those conversations after the fact of really having a dialogue and working to find a solution.
Well, where does this go from here? Is this it? I mean, this is the finality, or is there?
So in regards to the Civil War statue, the vote of the board last night was to keep it as it is, and that's where it stands.
And wasn't it going to be repaired in some sense?
Part of the motion last night was to repair the existing statue. There's some visible damage, and the motion included repairs to the statue.
Do you know who's going to be making those repairs, or like how much it's going to cost, those kinds of things?
We don't have those details yet.
Okay.